Do you ever find yourself reacting emotionally to challenging situations, only to later think, "I wish I had handled that differently"? We've all been there before. Someone cuts you off driving and you honk or yell in anger. A family member pushes your political buttons and you get into a heated argument. Your partner does something that irritates you and you lash out in the moment. It's so easy to get carried away by anger, fear, or other difficult emotions. You end up taking reactive actions that don't align with the principled person you aspire to be. That is why we have made this video, to allow you to master your ability to act instead of react. If you want to transform how you show up in difficult situations, developing the presence of mind to act skillfully instead of unconsciously reacting is life-changing. Let's get started. Number 1. Observe your automatic reactions. The journey to mastering your mind begins with self-awareness. The first step is to keenly observe your automatic reactions. This means becoming a vigilant observer of your own behavior. But how exactly do you do that? Let's break it down. Throughout your day, take note of moments when you react out of sheer habit. This could be anything from snapping at someone when you're stressed, to reaching for your phone the instant you feel bored. These habitual reactions are often deeply ingrained and happen almost reflexively. Our bodies are constantly sending us signals. When you find yourself reacting, pay close attention to physical cues. Are your shoulders tensing up? Is your heart rate increasing? Are you clenching your jaw? These physical manifestations are indicators that you're reacting on autopilot. Next, shift your focus to your inner dialogue. What thoughts are racing through your mind when you react? Are they filled with anxiety, frustration, or defensiveness? By identifying these thought patterns, you can begin to understand the triggers behind your reactions. Emotions play a significant role in how we respond to situations. When you react, what emotions are at play? Are you feeling anger, fear, or perhaps sadness? Acknowledging these emotions without judgment is key to understanding their impact on your behavior. Number 2, pause before responding. Once you've become adept at observing your automatic reactions, the next crucial step is to pause before responding. This brief moment of pause can be transformative, creating a much-needed space between the stimulus and your response. Here's how you can effectively implement this practice. When you notice yourself on the verge of reacting, take a few deep breaths. Breathing deeply not only helps you calm down, but also gives your brain the oxygen it needs to think more clearly. Inhale slowly through your nose, hold for a moment, and then exhale gently through your mouth. This simple act can significantly reduce your immediate emotional intensity. Another effective technique is to count to 10. This might sound basic, but it's incredibly powerful. Counting slowly to 10 gives you just enough time to shift from a reactive state to a more thoughtful one. Each number you count can help you regain control over your impulses and align your actions with your values and intentions. During this pause, reflect on the situation. Ask yourself, what is the best way to respond? How do I want to handle this? What outcome am I aiming for? This moment of reflection allows you to choose a response that is deliberate and considered, rather than impulsive and potentially regrettable. Creating this space between the stimulus and your response is a core principle of Stoicism. The Stoics believed that while we cannot control external events, we can control our reactions to them. By pausing, you empower yourself to act with wisdom and composure, rather than being swept away by your initial emotional surge. Incorporate this practice into your daily routine. Whether you're dealing with a stressful work email, a disagreement with a loved one, or even a frustrating traffic jam, remember to pause. With time and practice, this habit will become second nature, leading to more thoughtful and effective responses in all areas of your life. Number 3, ask yourself why. This introspective question is a powerful tool for gaining deeper insights into the root causes of your reactions, ultimately helping you choose more intentional responses. When you find yourself reacting to a situation, take a moment during your pause to ask, "Why am I feeling this way?" This simple yet profound question can uncover underlying emotions, beliefs, and triggers that influence your behavior. For instance, if someone's comment irritates you, asking why might reveal that you feel disrespected or insecure about a particular aspect of yourself. Understanding the root of your reactions involves digging deeper into your thoughts and emotions. Consider the context and circumstances surrounding the situation. Are there past experiences influencing your current reaction? Are there specific fears or anxieties at play? By exploring these angles, you can gain a fuller picture of what's driving your immediate response. This self-inquiry doesn't just stop at understanding your emotions. It also involves examining your values and principles. Ask yourself if your reaction aligns with your core beliefs and long-term goals. For example, if you value patience and kindness, does your immediate reaction reflect those values? If not, this awareness gives you the opportunity to choose a response that is more in line with who you want to be. Additionally, asking why can help you identify patterns in your behavior. Over time, you might notice that certain situations or people consistently trigger similar reactions. This awareness allows you to prepare and develop strategies for handling these triggers more effectively in the future. By understanding the root of your reactions, you gain perspective and clarity. This self-awareness empowers you to shift from a reactive stance to a proactive one, where your responses are not just reflexive, but thoughtful and deliberate. This practice embodies the Stoic principle of examining one's own mind and emotions to act with reason and virtue. Number 4, reframe situations neutrally. One of the key principles of Stoicism is learning to train your mind to act instead of react. This involves developing habits that help you respond thoughtfully instead of having knee-jerk emotional reactions. Here are some tips on how to reframe situations neutrally as part of this process. When something happens, avoid immediately labeling it as good or bad. Instead, pause and try to view the situation objectively. Ask yourself, what are the basic facts here without any value judgments attached? Describe it to yourself neutrally. This helps create emotional distance so you don't get swept up in impulsive reactions. For example, say you get passed over for a promotion at work. Instead of thinking, "This is so unfair, I can't believe they didn't give me that promotion," try reframing it neutrally as "I was not given the promotion." This statement has no evaluations attached, it's just factual. Examining a situation neutrally can feel uncomfortable at first because we're so used to falling into knee-jerk reactions of judging things as good or bad. It requires mental discipline, but it allows you to respond thoughtfully instead of emotionally reacting. Avoiding snap judgments about whether situations are good or bad gives you clarity. It enables you to act, not react. You can then evaluate the situation rationally and decide how to respond in alignment with your values. Practicing neutral reframing takes time, but it's a powerful Stoic technique. Catch yourself when you start applying positive or negative labels to things that happen. Take a step back, describe the facts objectively, and see the situation clearly without bias. This builds the mental muscle memory to not get caught up in emotional reactivity. Stay calm, focused and thoughtful as you determine the wisest course of action. Number 5, remember your values. When something happens that might normally trigger an emotional reaction, pause and reflect on your principles. What values matter most to you? How do you want to conduct yourself or show up? Connect to your values before simply reacting. For example, if equality is a core value, consider how you can uphold equality with your response. If patience is key for you, think about how you can demonstrate patience. Essentially, let your values guide your actions in the moment. Connect to how you wish to express your principles before mindlessly reacting. You can ask yourself questions like, what would someone who is compassionate do here? How can I respond in a way aligned with my value of integrity? Is my potential reaction coming from ego or fear rather than my values? While you can't perfectly align every action to your principles, regularly reflecting on them drowns out the impulse to emotionally react. Over time, as you continually use your values as a compass for action, you train your mind to default to value-based behavior rather than reactions. Your values become concrete guidelines for living versus abstract ideas. Connecting to them requires self-awareness and reflection, but develops the mental muscle memory to respond thoughtfully based on the person you aspire to be. Number 6. Act instead of reacting. Reacting tends to be impulsive, knee-jerk, and powered by emotions like anger or fear. It's the instinctive response that often leads to regrettable actions taken in the heat of the moment. Acting, on the other hand, means making a conscious, thoughtful choice to take purposeful action that aligns with your goals and values. Acting requires self-control and discipline, but prevents you from taking harmful actions when your emotions are running high. After you've reframed a situation neutrally and connected to your core principles, you can make the choice to act in a way that serves you rather than harms you. For example, if you've been insulted, the instinct is to react by immediately lashing out with an equally hurtful retort. But acting based on Stoic principles might mean pausing, controlling your emotions, considering the most virtuous response, and then replying calmly or de-escalating the situation. With consistent practice, acting becomes an automatic habit. You train your mind so you no longer default to reactive patterns rooted in raw emotion. Acting takes effort, but gets easier over time. By learning to act rather than react, you take back control of your mind, align your responses to your values, and ultimately become the captain of your emotions rather than the victim. Number 7. Be proactive. An important part of training yourself to act versus react is to become more proactive, rather than just waiting for things to happen and then trying to control your reactions in the moment. Anticipate situations you're likely to encounter and decide how you want to respond. For example, if you know you're going to a family event where certain conversations often lead to arguments, reflect beforehand on how to remain calm and compassionate regardless of what's said. Or, if you have a difficult coworker, plan out how you want to speak to them ahead of time rather than getting sucked into drama. Being proactive reduces the need to actively resist reactions in the heat of the moment. By planning ahead, you've already decided how you want to act. When challenging situations actually occur, your mind will be prepared, making it much easier to respond thoughtfully. Of course, you can't anticipate everything, so reactive training is still crucial, but combining proactive planning with retraining your reactions will help instill the mental habits to act rather than react. Stay one step ahead of potential triggers. The more you can thoughtfully prepare, the less likely you'll be pulled into impulsive, emotional reactions when caught off guard. Number 8. Respond, don't react. Reacting tends to be automatic and unconscious. Your emotions flare up and you immediately express them without thought. Responding, on the other hand, means making a conscious, deliberate choice about how to behave. You recognize your initial impulse to react, but pause before actually expressing anything. This creates space to then respond in a more thoughtful, aligned way. When you find yourself triggered, train yourself to pause before reacting. Say to yourself, "This is just my initial emotional reaction, not who I want to be." Breathe and give yourself mental space to find a more constructive way to respond. Responding takes self-awareness and control, but prevents you from taking actions you'll regret. While perfectly controlling your reactions isn't realistic, inserting brief pauses builds the muscle memory to not be so quick to react. With practice, responding thoughtfully eventually becomes second nature. So remember, reacting is unconscious while responding is deliberate. Strive to not just react in life's moments, but to truly respond based on your values. Make that gap between initial reaction and expression your power, not your weakness. Find your best self in that space. Number 9. Separate emotion from action. It's completely natural when challenging situations occur to feel upset, angry, afraid, hurt, or any difficult emotion. Stoicism does not teach suppressing these feelings or pretending you don't experience them. The emotions themselves are not the problem. The issue arises when you let them directly dictate your actions. Whenever you notice yourself feeling stirred up emotionally, pause and take a step back to create some mental space. Simply observe the feelings arising within you. Accept them and realize it's normal to experience them rather than resisting. Sit with them and even name them if that's helpful. I notice I'm feeling angry right now. At the same time, remind yourself that just because you feel upset, scared, or offended, it doesn't mean you have to immediately act from that emotional place. Those feelings can exist, and you can still choose to respond thoughtfully and productively. Separate the signal of the emotion from the action it seems to demand in that moment. For example, say a confrontation triggers feelings of offense and anger. If you let those emotions rule, you might react by lashing out or making hurtful comments simply because you feel justified based on the intensity of those feelings. Instead, recognize that you feel angry, sit with it, but make an intentional choice to respond calmly and maturely despite the inner turmoil. Allow yourself to fully experience the emotion while training yourself not to be controlled by it when provoked. Avoid either suppressing your feelings or mindlessly expressing them through reactionary behavior. Let the emotion flow through you while centering yourself enough to act from principles rather than raw intensity. With ongoing practice, separating feeling from action becomes second nature. You create enough mental space between emotion arising and action taken that you can feel anything yet still act thoughtfully and deliberately based on your values. Your emotions inform you rather than rule you. This skill takes effort, but allows you to master your responses. Number 10. Focus on what you can control. A Stoic attitude involves focusing your energy on what you can control rather than wasting it on things outside your control. When something happens, take a moment to ask yourself, what aspects of this situation can I influence? Your actions, your thoughts, your attitude, these are within your control. On the other hand, things like other people's behaviors, life circumstances, or past events cannot be controlled. Rather than fruitlessly wishing you could dictate external realities, direct your mental energy towards your own response. You always have control over how skillfully or unskillfully you respond to what life presents. Channel your power into making proactive choices of how to act or think, instead of reacting based on what you can't determine. For example, if you've lost a job, you can't control that the position ended, but you can control how you frame it, your plan moving forward, and your attitude in interviews. Focus on demonstrating resilience rather than dwelling on the unchangeable situation. Learning to zero in on what's controllable versus uncontrollable filters out wasted mental energy. Don't try to fix what you can't. Simply control your response as best as possible, aligned to your values. Where you apply your focus becomes your power. Number 11. Learn from experience. Ask yourself questions like, what exactly about the situation sparked such a strong reaction? Were there subtle early warning signs I missed? What inner wounds or sensitivities fed into my response? What values did I forget in the heat of the moment that led me to react that way? If I could redo it, how would I want to respond? Make careful note of any patterns, triggers, and hot-button reactions that recur for you. Keep a journal to record insights gained from reflecting on these past experiences. Identify certain people, behaviors, or situations that tend to automatically evoke uncontrolled reactions from you. Use the self-knowledge gained to thoughtfully prepare for when those triggers inevitably arise again. Remind yourself of the values you want to uphold next time and think through skillful ways to respond instead of react. Learning from experience builds awareness and gradually equips you to handle life's challenges with wisdom earned from your past mistakes. While previous poor reactions can't be undone, you can always evolve and improve future responses through rigorous self-examination and intentional change. Mastering your reactions is a lifelong journey of personal growth. Number 12. Practice, practice, practice. Learning to respond skillfully rather than react emotionally takes diligent, ongoing practice. Building new mental habits doesn't happen overnight. Expect to make mistakes and have setbacks as you work to gain mastery over your reactions. Be patient and persistent with yourself. Use everyday interactions as opportunities to catch yourself when reactive patterns start to arise. Reframe the situation, connect to your values, and make the choice to respond thoughtfully. The more you exercise this mental muscle, the stronger it becomes. When you do react poorly, avoid self-judgment. Reflect on it as a lesson to strengthen your practice. We never fully arrive at perfect reactions, but through steady repetition, responding thoughtfully can become your default rather than reacting impulsively. Keep focused on progress over perfection. Even if you can catch yourself just 10% more of the time before reacting, that's growth to celebrate. Establishing presence of mind in the face of triggers is like any skill building. It requires continuous practice. Each time you turn reaction into response is a victory. With commitment and self-compassion, you can retrain your mind's habits. The effort is well worth it. Responding empowers you, reacting weakens you. Dedicate yourself to the ongoing practice for the sake of your growth. Progress will unfold one response at a time. Transforming your reactions takes commitment and patience with yourself, but the payoff is immense. Developing presence of mind empowers you to show up as your best self, even in difficult situations. You become the pilot of your emotions rather than just a passenger. Imagine how much more fulfilled you'll feel. If you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe, and share. I'd love to hear your biggest takeaways in the comments below. What resonated with you most, or what are you excited to try implementing first? I appreciate you taking the time to watch all the way to the end. My mission with this channel is to share practical wisdom that can truly change your life. So thank you for being here and being part of this community. I'll see you in the next video. In the meantime, may you all find peace and serenity in the Stoic ways.